$59.32. On December 6, 2025, silver didn't just hit a new price. It shattered a psychological ceiling that has held for nearly half a century. Most people looked at the chart and saw a number. But the smart money? They saw a crime scene. While the world was distracted by the headlines, something unprecedented happened in the vaults of the most powerful bank in America. JPMorgan reportedly moved 169 million ounces of physical silver into their possession. Let that number sink in. 169 million ounces. Industry sources suggest that is nearly 9% of the entire global supply. Gone. Removed from the market. Locked away. Why would a bank that has famously called precious metals dead money suddenly hoard it like it's the last asset on Earth? The answer isn't about profit. It's about survival. We are watching the beginning of the silver tsunami. And if you are not positioned before the water recedes, you will be swept away. To understand today, we have to go back to 2011. This was the year the silver whale began its feast. For 14 years, quietly, methodically, without drawing attention, JPMorgan has been accumulating physical silver. They didn't buy it all at once. That would have spiked the price. They bought it on the dips. They bought it when sentiment was low. They used the paper market to suppress the price, while they scooped up the physical metal. Some analysts estimate their total hoard could be as high as 675 million ounces. If accurate, that is 45% of all available 1,000-ounce bars in the world. Think about the leverage that gives them. They own nearly half the market. They aren't suppressing the price anymore because they want to. They are positioning themselves for the moment they can no longer hold the beach ball underwater. They know what's coming. A repricing event that will make 1980 look like a minor correction. How did we get here? It started with the Hunt brothers in 1980. When they tried to corner the silver market, prices hit $50. Regulators panicked. They changed the rules overnight to crush the Hunts. Since then, the system has been designed to prevent another squeeze. They built a massive paper market, the COMEX, the LBMA, markets where billions of ounces are traded daily, but almost no metal actually moves. It is a game of musical chairs. Current data shows open interest on the COMEX is roughly 244% of vaulted silver. That means for every ounce of real silver in the vault, there are 2.5 paper claims floating around. It works fine, as long as nobody asks for their metal. But what happens when confidence breaks? What happens when everyone stands up at the same time to claim their chair? The paper illusion evaporates, and reality is all that's left. Now, add the second force, the industrial vortex. Silver isn't just money. It is the most conductive metal on the periodic table. You can't build the future without it. Solar panels. The green energy transition is hungry. Solar demand alone consumes nearly 20% of supply. Electric vehicles. An EV uses up to 3 times more silver than a gas car. 5G and AI. Every server, every chip, every connector needs silver. Estimates suggest industrial use now creates a floor of demand that consumes 59% of global supply. Compare that to just 40% a decade ago. Meanwhile, mines are dying. Global mine production has fallen 7% since 2016. We are in a structural deficit. We are burning the furniture to heat the house. For 7 consecutive years, we have consumed more silver than we have mined. The only reason prices stayed low? We were draining old stockpiles. But the stockpiles are empty. Then came the crack in the dam, November 28, 2025, a date that will go down in financial history. The CME Group's systems went offline. A server cooling issue, they said, a technical glitch. The market went dark for 10 hours. But when the lights came back on, the panic was visible. Silver spiked to $56. Bid-ask spreads widened to over $1. That is a sign of a broken market. It means dealers are scared to sell, and in the shadows of that chaos, the smoking gun appeared. Filings show JPMorgan reclassified 13.4 million ounces of silver from registered to eligible. In plain English, they took their silver off the market. They said, "This is not for sale at these prices." Lease rates for silver hit 30% annualized. When you have to pay 30% interest just to borrow a bar of metal, you know the shortage is real. This isn't just about supply and demand. This is about geopolitics. Look at what's happening globally. The BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and now Saudi Arabia, are actively de-dollarizing. They are buying gold at record rates. But silver is the poor man's gold, and it moves faster. India's silver imports hit record highs. China is hoarding commodities. Why? Because they know the dollar system is being weaponized. If you are Russia or China, you don't want U.S. treasuries anymore. You want hard assets. Gold is the shield. Silver is the sword. When the global East rotates out of fiat currency, a fraction of that capital flows into silver. And because the silver market is so small, it's like trying to force the water from a fire hose through a garden straw. The pressure creates an explosion. And sitting on top of this powder keg is the Federal Reserve. On December 10th, they meet. The market is pricing in an 87% chance of a rate cut. The Fed is trapped. The economy is slowing. Debt is at $36 trillion. Interest payments are suffocating the government. They have to cut rates. But if they cut rates, the dollar weakens. And when the dollar weakens, commodities fly. Silver reacts to a weak dollar more violently than any other asset. It creates a feedback loop. Weak dollar, higher silver, more panic buying. Weaker dollar. The Fed knows this, but they have no choice. So where does this go? Analysts who called silver dead money are now scrambling to update their models. $75, $100. But let's look at history. In 1980, silver hit $50, adjusted for inflation. That is roughly $170 today. And back then, we didn't have a structural deficit. We didn't have solar panels consuming 20% of supply. We didn't have $36 trillion in debt. If silver merely reverts to its historical mean against gold, we are looking at $280. This isn't a moonshot prediction. This is math. The compression of the last 40 years is unwinding. The spring is releasing. The silver tsunami is here. The water is pulling back from the shore. That was the price suppression. Now, the wave is forming. JPMorgan is ready. They have their lifeboats filled with 169 million ounces. Central banks are ready. The industrial giants are panic-buying inventory. The only people who aren't ready are the public. They are still holding paper dollars. They are still trusting the official narrative. The window to acquire physical metal is closing. Premiums are rising. Delivery times are stretching. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And right now, it is rhyming with the biggest wealth transfer we have ever seen. Are you listening to the signal?